This is our stone letters project. So what you are going to need for this is the 4-inch strip of paper. You're going to need a variety of drawing pencils, so make sure you have a really good dark B pencil, an eraser, sharpener, and the letter sheet reference, so you have something to reference while you're drawing. So as you get started, I encourage you to make a nice 5-step value scale to also practice creating those different values and as a reference as you go along. So I drew my dog's name Rusty. So you need to have at least 5 letters in your word, and it could be your name or someone else's name, it doesn't matter. So drawing your letters. You're going to have your 4-inch strip of paper divided into inch-long pieces. So we're going to be drawing in the middle, which is a 2-inch strip. So you want to have that line in the middle so you have like a good guide for what's center. So look at your reference sheet and pick out your letter that you're going to start drawing. So I'm going to start with the T. I've already done a few letters. You can see some of them I even overlapped a little bit. Each letter you want it to be about 2.5 inches. So you can see the R is a little bit bigger. Some of them might be a little bit smaller, but you want them to be pretty consistent. You don't want one tiny letter and one big letter. And you want it to fill top to bottom of that 2-inch space. So you're thinking about 2 to 2.5 inches wide, 2 inches tall. So I'm going to start with the T. So I'm going to look at the T. I'm going to look at the angles. And I'm going to do the outline first. I'm going to see, okay, where's the center on the T? I'm going to use my pencil to kind of make sure the angle's correct. And then I'm just going to kind of judge where I want that T to be. So I'm going to make it overlap the S by just a little bit. You can make them a little more spaced if you like. It is your project. Okay, so then I'm going to do a little mark, make sure that I'm going to make this about the right size. So where is it going to end? So I'm constantly judging, making corrections, looking at my reference, giving myself some guides, and also taking my time. This is me drawing in real time. I have not sped this up. Later I will speed things up. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what angle is that? I'm not doing any of those little detail bumpy pieces yet. I'm just thinking about the overall shape. I'm looking at the negative space. Kind of looks like an upside down L over there. There's a little cutout right there. So what is this plane? Okay, where does this hit compared to the middle of the letter? What angles do I see? And then also you want to probably draw lighter than what I'm drawing so you can see, you can make changes and erase. I'm drawing darker just so you can see it. So I'm seeing, okay, where's the middle? So that needs to go higher up. So always check, keep checking. Don't just guess, check. You want it to be right. So I pulled that piece up. And then, okay, so the right side of the T is going to be there. It has that little split right there. And then again, okay, where's that angle? Where's the center? If you want, I do have some that are not laminated that you can actually draw on if that helps. But as long as you get things pretty close to what you see, your work will come out great. But remember, it's all lines and angles. So we're kind of going back to the beginning of class when we were learning the shape method of drawing. So we're just looking at shapes and copying what we see. And then you can see I drew that line, and then I'll just erase that one right there. So you can make guidelines. So then I know, okay, what is that shape? So then I got to remember some of it is behind that S. So it's kind of like you're just making pieces that we're going to fill in with different values later. We're not worried about any of that. All right, so my last letter is the Y for Rusty. So this one is kind of at a different angle than the T. So I'm going to kind of make a judgment. All right, the T's here. I want it about 2 inches, maybe a little more. So I don't want it to go over 2.5. And then so I decide, okay, where's the Y going to start? So with this one, I'm not going to really overlap it that much. So I'm thinking about, okay, where's the middle? So according to that angle, where is the middle? So the middle hits right where that edge is, and then I'm just going to keep going. So then it kind of comes down, and then it goes back up. And you can see the way I draw, I kind of jump around. Everyone has their kind of own way of doing it. But then again, kind of saying, okay, where's the middle? So I'm always checking, where's the middle, where's the middle? So this one, I'm just trying to do that overall shape. I'm not thinking about the inside so much. And you'll see as I go, like I make adjustments, I make mistakes, I don't see things right, I fix them. No big deal. But again, I would, if this is you, I would draw a lot lighter than this. I'm only drawing this dark so you can see it on my camera. And you'll see I have to make some adjustments on this one. Alright, you guys can see here where I kind of mess up. So I want you to see that I mess up. Like, I don't do everything perfect. Like, this is just normal drawing. Like, look, I put that wet piece way too close. So, you know what? I'm just going to erase it and fix it. So don't feel like if this is challenging that, oh, I can't do this. You can absolutely do this. We have worked on this all year. You just need to take your time and just keep doing your sighting and your measuring, looking at the angles, looking at the shapes you see. And then as long as it's pretty close, it's going to look like the letter, I guarantee it. Okay, then I'm going to add that little piece. And then I'm just going to add some more of those little crevices in there. And so it's touching a little bit. It's not quite overlapped, but it's pretty close. All right, so there we go. So that's how I did all the letters. So I just took my time, used my reference, made sure I was spot in the middle. So now when you're shading, you want to go letter by letter. I would go left to right, or if you're a lefty, maybe go right to left so you don't smear. You need a value scale. I would make those 5 values so you have an idea of how to make those different values. So start with your letter, and then you want to look at what value is this plane or this shape on the letter. What is the value next door? You don't want same values next to each other. That also counts for the background. So you need to decide what you're going to do with the background. You can shade it all a really dark portion. You can fade it out. There's a lot of ways to do it, but I don't want to see any values that are the same next to each other. So to start, I'm just laying down, that's kind of like a middle value there on that R. I'm just laying down some graphite as a middle value. I kind of go back and forth with a blender but I always end with the pencil. I don't like to blend and just end with the blend because then it looks really mashed potatoey. So as I shade this, I am going to speed this up quite a bit. This whole drawing probably took me close to 2 hours, and this video is 30 minutes. So I don't want you to think that I draw this fast. But if it takes me that long, just think about how long it should take you if you're working really hard. So it should take you a minimum of an hour and a half to do this. And if you take your time and really focus on what are those different values and how do I shade them correctly, you're going to have a really nice looking drawing at the end of this. So I'm just going to go through letter by letter and let you see how I shaded it. And then I'll just come in and out with some comments. So you can mute me if you want. You can go to the end where I talk about refining with the eraser. And then if you have any questions as how I've done something as I go through this, just ask in class. As you're going along, you can also push values. So if you're struggling how to make things look a little different, make something way darker. That's a dark value. Maybe make it a little darker than what it looks like, or maybe leave something a little bit lighter than it looks like. You can also kind of shade the surface dark to light a little bit. So just on the plane itself, add a little bit of a transition in there, maybe a soft transition. And that will also help give your work a little more oomph, a little more pop. So like underneath that U, I'm adding a really dark value to kind of give it a little bit more contrast. I'm also making the right side of the U a little bit darker than what it looks like on my example. But I also have to think about the background because the background needs to be a different value. So I kind of have to decide what I'm going to do with the background. So you can see on the left with the R, I just made it completely black. And for my final, I just ended up making the background like a really dark value and just making sure it was different than the letter. But you could also fade it in and out around the letters. So that is a creative choice that you can make. All right, so then here I'm like, well, I have to deal with this background. So I'm trying to make this really dark. I got a 4B. I end up moving to a 6B later. And I don't really want to see all those pencil strokes that I'm making. So I end up going back and making it softer. And then also on the edge of that U, I'm going to go back later with a little bit of an eraser and like make a little highlight pop right back there. So again, you could just blend this dark and then have the top be light, like a smooth value scale, or you can just make it dark. Just make sure that there's no two same values next to each other. You want this to really stand out. And then I like to use the blender because I don't want to see my pencil marks there. I want the background to be pretty smooth and consistent. Okay, so let's refine it. Let's put some finishing touches on this. Let's make sure it's the best it can be. So I'm using what's called a mono eraser. So it's this little tiny eraser. So if you would like one, just ask and I'll give you one. And I'm using this to kind of carve out some highlights because I want to show some of that paper as my level 0. And it also, so I'm cleaning up edges and making them look really sharp. I'm adding a little bit of highlight in there to make the letters pop. Going back in, looking, thinking, making things a little bit darker, a little bit sharper. Because remember, you want this to be your best work. So adding that darkness really makes that R pop. So going back in, adding a little bit of a highlight. So I like to use my eraser as a drawing tool. Like that's my favorite thing is reverse drawing. So I'm going back in, I'm adding a little highlight on the edge of those letters, making those shapes a little bit more defined with the eraser. Then you can always go back and add a little bit more value back in. So even adding a little highlight right there. This is the part that's most fun for me. And then on the back, I even added a little bit of a light value back there on the back of the Y to make that end of it stand out. And then just any areas that could use a little more work. So a little bit more value. I didn't really shade it enough up there. All right, and just about done. So I'm actually taking a 9B. So if you need the 9B pencil, that's the darkest one, just let me know. I'll let you use it so you can really make like the darkest value possible. So this refining step also took me quite a bit to make sure it looks exactly the way I want it. But that 9B really helps, like really makes the darkest value you can get. So if you need it, just ask. All right, then your final step, once you get your word done, is we are going to trim off the white, and then we will make a black paper border. And then it will be ready to hang up and turn in. So I hope you enjoy this project, and I know you're going to do an amazing job. This uses all the skills that we have learned all in one project. So I can't wait to see your finished work. I'm sure you did a great job.